Hello, hello, lovely people. It's been forever. I think the last devrel show was in end of January because in February I had the luxury to leave for 3 weeks for meditation retreat, a Buddhist retreat in India. So I spent 3 weeks in a monastery, had an amazing time, disconnecting from day-to-day life, disconnecting from as much as I love computer, disconnecting from computer, focusing on myself, trying to be happier, trying to be calmer. It was a great experience, but meaning that during that time, I was not doing any live streams. So today is the quote unquote big comeback for the Devrel show for 2025. Really
No
excited
pressure.
to be here. No pressure for my guest today. On top of that, it's episode number 30. I don't know if it's a milestone. I guess it's a milestone. It means that I had 29 episode in the pocket. We're doing episode 30 today. I started the show a little bit, maybe a year ago ish. I'm trying to do that every 2 weeks, but depending on traveling for conferences and other stuff, it's not every time. It's not every other weeks, but I'm trying to keep to the schedule as much as possible. And good news for 2025, I'm fully booked with the guests. So I have the next 20 something guests for the rest of the year already booked, already in a calendar. And that's going to be an amazing lineup. But with a little bit of pressure, no, okay, no pressure. My guest today, really excited to have you on board, Amanda. How is life?
I can't complain. I'm here on the East Coast of the US in Baltimore, and it's just starting to get spring temperatures, and I am a winter hibernation kind of person, so
I
this is
hear
my
you.
time. I am blossoming here. I am ready. I'm going on walks. It's good.
I hear you. I hear you. Actually, I have no idea what's the usual temperature in Baltimore. Like, do you have winter, or
It's got very, very cold this year. Lots of single digits for us. Fahrenheit for anybody. Single digits in Fahrenheit. Um, and yeah, it was very, very cold here this year. We don't get a lot of snow. We did get like one or two, but it just gets very gray, very dark, very icy, and just miserable
okay, sounds good.
for like all
So
of
we
January.
Yeah, no, it's not that bad. So we have Quar 241, which is Richard. By the
Yeah.
way, that says like no pressure at all. No, that was a joke. There's absolutely no pressure. This is what I was telling Amanda before we go live. I'm a laid back person. This is a laid back show. The idea is, talk about DevRel and having fun. So seriously, no pressure at all. It's just like
Yeah.
I'm already just happy that I have the privilege of being able to do that show and having amazing guests like all the time, like brilliant people like yourself on the show. It's just great. And Richard was saying, speaking of conferences, I want to go to React Miami.
I've never been
Hopefully,
that one. It seems so fun though, and I like all the colors. I think her name is Michelle that organizes it. The swag for it always looks so nice. The conference t-shirts, like it's a very like vibey, very Miami feeling kind of conference, it seems.
it looks like I went in conferences. Where was it? In the south, and it was like in an all-inclusive hotel, and it was like the vibe was totally different. Like it was a little bit of like a hard pitch to my manager at the time because it was like, I'm doing an all-inclusive resort, but like that was the Caribbean developer conference,
Oh,
and it's a
I've heard
great,
that's a good
yeah.
one too.
I heard
Mhm.
really prior to speaking there, I heard like a lot of great things, which I confirmed by the way when I was there. Like it's a great conference, and everything, but it's always a little bit of like a hard pitch to folks because like, hey, are you going for a vacation or are you going for the conference? And you know what? You can do both. You can
Why
go for
not
the conference,
both?
and exactly.
It
So
attracts better speakers and more audience members too, because if you think about it as like and like somebody who's coming to attend, like that's a big commitment. You might even have to take vacation time. So why not go to one that's in the place you'd like to visit and see great speakers? Because the better the location, the better the conference, the better speakers are going to want to go too. So it's like I feel like everybody wins.
And it's exactly what happened. I saw the quality, and I'm not saying that because I was a speaker, but I saw the quality of speaker was really great. A lot of well-known people, a lot of people you want to see on stage. Like when I go to
Yeah.
conferences, I usually don't listen to other talks, not because I don't like other talks, just like I have ADHD, and part of my job, once I gave my talk, I prefer to spend my time talking to people, because
Hmm.
my job is about our job is about connecting with people. It's about connecting with human there, and there's always people taking a break for watching it.
Yeah, hallway track.
I just spend the time with those folks. But at that conference, I spent a little more time to go listen to some of the talks because of the caliber of the speakers, and the audience was amazing too. Like a lot of local people, great
I like
people.
that.
It's this is my happy place when I'm at a conference, talking to people, speaking on the stage, sharing my expertise slash experience, and hopefully helping other people being successful. It's really what I like to.
Yeah.
And Richard, I love that. Usually, I was saying Amanda before the show, either people don't talk at all, or they have a lot of comments depending on the show, and I still don't know how or when or what's the basic foundation of that. But I love having comments. I love people that are kind of like you're part of the show when you come in or you ask questions.
Yeah.
Conference in general.
Richard is top tier audience member, hype man, friend out there building stuff. He is a community builder extraordinaire out there in the world. So we haven't met
Awesome.
each other in person yet, but I've run into him in the different online spaces.
One day, maybe in Japan. Who
Maybe.
knows? Who knows? I gave a talk there once. That was quite an experience. But that show is not about me. Amanda, I want to know, who are you?
Whew. Oh man, I don't know. We have that kind of time. Well, developer advocate. I've been at Wix for a little over 3 years now, and it's been a journey. The position itself has even evolved in those 3 years. Prior to that, I come from kind of a mixed background, which I know can be common in developer advocates here. So I was more one of those, didn't know what I wanted to do, had a few different kinds of careers, eventually ended up on a software development team, really kind of fell in love with building things, solving problems. Like, I think once you write your first few lines of code and then you see something happen and that either like immediately like you're in it and it's with you forever, or you're like, oh, this isn't for me. And I was just like, whoa, this is so cool. So ended up doing software development for a few years, and but then I got to that kind of point where I was doing better. I was getting to like kind of a mid-level range, and then you get that kind of push where you're either getting pushed to go all the way in like tech lead track, or you're getting pushed to go, if you're good with people, which I was, like good with talking to clients, good with talking to non-technical users, good with making documentation, you're good at the other things that aren't just code, you get pushed sort of towards project management. And I was like, is that it? Are those the only two things available to me now? Because I didn't like look for tech. Tech found me. So
Oh
so
wow.
I was like, well, I was like, I really like writing code. I was like, but I was like, I really like working with people. Like I really loved, like as I got better, I would get the opportunity to like mentor like incoming junior devs and like just helping people and working with people outside of code really was very fulfilling for me. So I kind of started searching around and just kind of like looking on the internet. The funny thing about ended up in devrel and how I see how so many people are on very online, like terminally online people. I didn't come up that way. The developers that I knew when I first started were very not online people. They're the kind of people who didn't even have like any social media accounts. They were like very offline people. So I learned from people, and I didn't know there was this whole world of people like communicating and creating content and things like that. So as I started to see like what else is out there in tech besides these like two very distinct paths, I was like, there have to be something else for me as I'm kind of trying to evolve. Richard, you are terminally online. I am too, honestly, at this point. And I found a blog that somebody wrote, and I didn't know what developer relations was. I had never heard of it, not even as a concept, not even in passing. I even asked people on the team I was on once I came into the concept if they had heard of it. They hadn't heard of it. and I was like, okay. So I found a blog that was kind of one of those like day in the life blogs. And it was, I think, from someone working at Google or somewhere like that, not anybody I've ever met since then, but it was like they were describing their job and what they did. And I was like, oh, I was like, that sounds cool. So then, of course, I look around, I'm like, are there jobs in this thing? And there weren't really any that I found, or maybe they were called something else. And so when I got ready to move on from that like last web dev like kind of job and team I was on, when I was ready to move on, I applied for other developer roles at companies that were interesting to me. But then I also found Wix had a developer advocate role open. And it was the only one I saw. So I was like, maybe they'll talk to me. And lo and behold, they did. And like I said, now that I kind of see the world more and what people expect from developer advocates, it was definitely a right place, right time thing because I didn't have an online presence. I didn't have a blog. I didn't have a website. I didn't have a video to my name. Anything I made was internal. I couldn't share it. So I had made webinars and things like that, but they were not for public consumption. So they interviewed me, and I had a mixture of skills that worked for them, and they were open to having people at different levels, like whether entry level or had been working in it for a while. So the team I was on was a real mixture of skill sets, which was great as a first job. And here I am, and I really love it. It's such a cool mixture of things, and it's super satisfying. So I haven't gone back since then, and that's kind of how I ended up here, right here in this moment with you.
That's amazing. That's a great story. There's so many things I want to talk about from what you just shared. But the first thing I want to say congrats to Wix from hiring you. First, from hiring you. You seem like an amazing person. We don't know each other, but I've seen a little bit of you online, and you're in the show, so you're an amazing person for sure. But on top of that, like based on what you said, not having online presences, not having like the type of work that developer advocates usually do that you already had to show, but they were like, hey, you know what? We're going to give you a chance because this is what happened. They gave you a chance and they're like, we think you can do the job, but you were not really able to show them that you were able to do the job. And I think more companies should give that chance because right now I'm talking with many people that want to start in developer relation. And my main feedback is like, try to do the job now before doing the job, which kind of sucks because I
Yeah,
mean, like you still need to have another job to get money before trying to like move to developer relation. But you're gonna need to use your free time to create video online and to do live stream and to write blog posts and to speak at conferences. And no matter
yeah,
if you enjoy those things, it's still like you have to do these on top of like the actual job you have right now, just to get a chance to maybe get a developer advocate job. But like most
yeah,
company, even for a junior role without any prior experience, they still want to see something that you've created online. So
yeah.
yeah, long
Yeah, I
story,
always
long
tell people,
comment
I'm
to
like,
say like good
yeah,
job,
it's like
Wix.
yeah, this is, I think I have a very not normal path to get here, especially now. And it was, it was what, I guess 2020 when I got my role, the end of 2020. So it was a like slightly different the way the market was working then. But still, it was still unusual, I think, to be interviewed for this. And I had experience with their product at the time and with competitor products like WordPress, Drupal, Joomla. I had worked in a lot of CMS products, so I assumed that that was kind of an interesting experience. And then of course I had to go through all the interview process too. But even yeah, becoming a developer for me, I didn't go to school for it. I was doing GIS, so like map making and geospatial analysis, so like a technical field, but not development. I was still the end user of a product to apply analytical data to and things like that. So I sat next to a software development team, and I just like became friends with them, and then would
You
talk, and then
became
they'd be like,
friends
"Oh,
with developers.
yeah, I love them." This is how I ended up helping devs. I was like, "I love these people." And so I became friends with people on the dev team, and then like I had my little basic like HTML, CSS, JavaScript course when I went to school, and I had geospatial database design, which is the same as other data space. I can't even say it. Database design concepts, like, so there's like crossover knowledge, and they started giving me like little tasks when they would, and eventually they were like, "Hey, we need a dev." are you interested? And I was like, I don't know. So then that other part of just my personality of being like, yeah, I'll try that, and like not being afraid of if it fails. I was like, I have my degree in geospatial data analysis. Like I have this thing here, and the company has trusted me enough to try this other thing. So I assume if it doesn't work out, I can go back to making the maps.
Yeah.
So it's like I just kind of was like, let's do it. And I had a really cool and really supportive team, and and it wasn't easy. Like I was as once I started getting into dev and I realized what a big can of worms I opened, I'm like sweating. I'm like nights and weekends. I'm writing things down, terminology. I'm like, it was so so overwhelming because it was mostly like a C#.net shop. That was most of what they built. And like coming from zero into that
Yeah.
was so confusing. And but then we'd have one-off, it was a government contractor. So we'd have like one-off contracts that would be WordPress, which is also confusing if you've never touched it before,
Yeah.
but it doesn't feel as scary as .NET did.
Oh, it's a
So it's like I
different
could be
confusing.
different confusing. And then there would be like some other little things here. And then as I got better and better, I could exist anywhere. We
Yeah.
also had actual two people were our DevOps team there. Like so the whole setting up your environment thing and understanding all of that. Um, I didn't have to also learn that too because we had like DevOps who would come over and help me
Okay.
with all of the crazy setup things and Docker and all this other stuff that I was just like, if I would have had to learn that also on top of everything else that was now information overload. But yeah, I definitely spent, I'd say, the first few years just in it, like anybody else learning anything. If you
Yeah.
really want to learn it, it's more than your job. If you're lucky enough to be paid also while you're learning, it is still
Yeah.
more than
That's
just
the best case
the clock in,
scenario.
clock out time
Yeah,
to
yeah,
succeed.
still to work. And I've been in tech for a long time. I'm old. And I still say after more than 20 years that tech is difficult. Being a
It
developer
is.
is difficult, and I feel, and now I'm gonna sound old, but I feel it's harder right now than it used to be when I started, like more than 20 years ago, because now there's like all those technologies, all those libraries, everything is
There's
changing
so many
like so
pieces now.
quickly, so many ways to do things, so many services, like everything is SaaS right now. So it's not just about like using a library, like you need to use like 20 services, external services, to just being able to do one simple task. So there's some benefits to it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying that I
Yeah.
feel like it's even harder now than it used to be when I started. But
It's overwhelming. It's
it
yeah,
is,
it's
and I mean,
crazy.
part of my job is to, part of my developer advocate job is to continue to learn new things, not being an expert in
Mhm.
everything, but at least know enough that I can have
Awareness, yeah.
awareness and have like proper discussion with other developers. And it's part of my job, and I struggle to keep up with like everything that is happening because there is like so many things. So and I had like a proper, I wouldn't say proper, but I went to school for about like a year to have like a former diploma, because at that time it was impossible to find a job without like a an official diploma from a school.
Oh, yeah, that's
uh,
why I have one too. Like I live near Washington, DC, so most of the jobs in my area were government jobs and they wouldn't even talk to you without a
mm.
degree. Like if that was just like the how you got a conversation was having a piece of paper.
Exactly. Like the first job, to look at it and said like, okay, you had like proper training. Okay, you can be a developer, and nobody cared about my paper anymore. And actually, in my case, it was
Yeah.
not even a degree. It's like it's not even the equivalent of a college degree, but like for software development, I just needed something from an official
Something.
school where I live to say like, oh, this guy studied that thing. He got a diploma. He passed the exam. He should not be that bad at doing his job. But I'm really happy that that thing changed. Now I'm laughing when people ask for diploma and like job description. I'm like, do you understand tech a little bit? Like you can, it's so much
Yeah.
easier right now to learn about tech. Like you have access to all that content online. If people are a little bit of a self learner, they can do it. And if not, there's like all those boot camps and
Yeah.
stuff like that that just makes your life easier. But
Yeah, for
yeah,
how competitive it is and how overwhelming the space is, the barrier to entry has definitely gotten lower. If you can just get out there, build things and talk about it, and people will notice what you're doing, and that's
yep,
like I don't know any other careers that are exactly like that. I really don't. Maybe there are out there, but like I feel like tech more than anything else is like you can do it. You can just do it. You can just build stuff and you will get noticed for that, or maybe you'll just make something for yourself. It's such a cool space to be in.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Richard commented a while ago, but I still wanted to show it. I remember that moment as if it was
Yeah.
yesterday. Time really flies since your first Hello World. It does. Every time I talk about my first Hello World, I have a goosebump, and it was literally printing Hello World on a screen. It was like with Turbo C++, a blue screen, and like it was just like a system printout. I don't even remember the syntax, and it
That's
was another
cool.
word. But I was like, you know what? I did that. Like I pressed
It's so
run,
you feel so powerful.
and I was like, I'm good now. Like I can write stuff on my computer, and I was
I can
so
build
excited
anything I
about that.
want
Exactly.
forever. No.
And after that, they told me you need to build UI to your stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm done.
Oh,
Uh,
all right, all right, all
I'm
right. Here's
not.
a
I'm not.
button. Like,
I'm not
I
a UI
remember
person.
dragging files, like dragging over the HTML file, dragging over onto the server.
I know. I know. And you said other stuff. Actually, you know what? There is another comment from Richard. Thanks for sure you're doing the show today.
Yeah,
You're
we love having you
doing the
here.
question. I love that. So doesn't anyone know what devrel truly is though? And the
Mm.
answer from my part, actually, you know what, Amanda, answer
Ooh.
first.
So I always like to kind of be the different person in that conversation because I I don't do a lot of outbound facing DevRel right now. I did when I first started, but our priorities have kind of shifted. Wix has a community of builders that are generally business owners and like freelancers, agencies, things like that. And with that comes a really invested community of partners, and they get, new contracts however many times a year if they're successful, and they get to make the choice to be with us or not every single time somebody approaches them for a new build. It's not like once they pick a tool, it's in your system and then you guys use it forever and you're probably never going to go off it.
Yeah.
Like, no, they make this decision maybe multiple times a month. So we very much switched from a outbound, like the kind of devrel you usually see, the one that's a kind of an extension of marketing in some ways, but still being more educationally focused, to very like more community driven, more inbound, more nurturing the people that are building with us and making sure that they're successful. So I think it's always a mixture of your product and your community and then how you interact with that community. But I think the community piece changes depending on the company, whether they mean the community of developers that have touched our product in some way, or the community of developers that could potentially benefit from our product. So you're always focusing on this education and product piece, but sometimes you're focusing on this outbound marketing, and sometimes you're focused on this like inbound, like hyping up your own community and supporting your own community so that they're successful, and then that success kind of goes out from that center. Definitely did not give a proper definition there at all at any time. So it is hard to define in one line because I do think, I guess the point that I'm trying to make is and I think this actually probably steals from something I saw like Kelsey Hightower tweet one time, was like, it's whatever your company needs it to be. But it also always has these few elements. DevRel always has an element of you're always directly affecting and being a part of the developer community. You're always going to work with a product and the product teams and being part of that feedback loop and how the product evolves. And then you're also very likely going to be part of marketing. Not and to what degree I think changes a lot by company.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah, I
think?
know. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like the roles is essentially the same at any company, meaning that like you help people being successful, hopefully with your product. How you do
Yes.
it, it can be about creating content. It can be about
Hmm.
trying to get new user to the community. It can be a little more internal, like you do, where it's still an external role because you're not talking to like employees, Wix employee. You're talking to users, potential users, customers, but still like it's an external role, so you support them.
Yeah.
But devrel is like 20 jobs in one, depending on
Yeah, it
where
really
you
is.
work. Like you do a little bit of technical support, do a little bit of community management, a little bit of like social media manager. You're kind of like a PM a little bit sometimes an engineers,
Sometimes.
technical writer, public speaker, like name it. There is many jobs, and after that, it's basically a pick and choose. Some companies, like I've been doing that for a while now, and I've been to too many companies for my own good, and it, like the foundation keeps being the same, but the
Mm,
main focus change because some company will really focus on text-based content, some other will focus on video content, some will focus
yeah.
where you're kind of like a technical support or support engineers, but
Hmm.
with a friendly external face at the same time. And it really depends on the company, which is something I like and I hate about devrel, because right now, unfortunately, I'm looking for a new job, and no matter what's written in a job description, you still never really know what's the job's going to be about and what's the company wants your job to be about. It's not like, oh, you're an engineer. Yeah, you're a developer. You're going to code to create a software. After that, the technology changed, the product changed, but
Hmm.
this is what you're going to do day to day. You're going to create a piece of software using some code. That's your job. That will always be that at any
Yeah.
companies. Developer relation, developer advocate. I mean, like I've seen a role where they called it developer advocate, but actually what they really wanted is like a sales engineers, or I see
Hmm.
developer advocate title for someone like, no, what you want is a technical writer because it's just about writing stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
that's fine,
It could be
but
all about video and that's all you do. Like it could be all
exactly,
about going to meetups and that's all you do.
exactly. So the title is a little bit different. And yeah,
Yeah.
prior to developer advocate, we were called technical evangelist or developer evangelist. So my first
Mm.
title was tech. My first title was technical evangelist or developer evangelist. I think it was developer evangelist, and I loved it because it was a good icebreaker. Like people were like, "What the fuck are you doing? Are you going to
What
church every
is
Sunday?"
that?
So it was a really nice icebreaker. But people slowly changed it to developer advocate to because
Yeah.
that some religious people didn't like the fact that we're using evangelists to define our job. But I really like the. It was never to offend any people in my mind. It was just like, hey, this is a little bit what we try to do. We try to evangelize our product and try to get people to use it without forcing them, but still.
Yeah.
But yeah, now we in the last, I don't know, 10 years maybe, we moved toward developer advocate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
this is this
it
is
will
exactly like
evolve
that.
too. Yeah.
It's let me tell you about the good word of Wix, and that
I know the
weird.
word evangelism always makes me think of religion. So I think of like the caricature of like the preacher, the loud preacher in a church. It's like
If you would go through my blog and you would look about article I wrote about like what is a developer advocate, because when I started, we were not a lot of developer advocates out there. It was mostly big company like Microsoft, Apple, IBM that had like those developer advocates. So it was not well known, and it was really not known at all outside of the United States. So I wrote a couple of articles about like, hey, what is the day-to-day job of a
you
developer
helped
advocate?
baby me.
What do we yeah what are we doing? And most of the images, like it's a preacher at the corner of a street with a bible and something, and that was my image for the article.
Yep.
Because for me it would, and I'm sorry if that offended some people. It was never, I have a lot of respect for any religion, but I just love the title evangelist, and I just thought that it was a little bit what I was doing, going at the corner of the conference and like saying like, hey, use my product a little bit, not
Yeah.
like that exactly, but
Well, and there
yeah.
is this like you have to like the product you support.
Oh,
You're too close to the people, and the way that we work as developer advocates has so much integrity. So you are evangelizing it a little. Like I think Wix Studio is a fantastic product. I think all the dev products we make are really, really, really cool. Yeah, there's use cases where you might want to choose something else. That's just anything in tech at all. But like
yeah.
you do really like it. So like when you talk about it, you do get excited and you do evangelize, and like that's part of it. Like so like I can't imagine working for a company where I didn't like the product or didn't believe in the usefulness of the product or whatever. Like I don't know. I don't think that would be possible.
I don't think so. It's as I said, I unfortunately lost my job like a week and a half ago. By the way, if you're looking for a developer advocate, this guy is available. I'm doing interviews right now,
Yeah.
but nothing is signed off, no final offer yet. You know how it is, take times. But I'm lucky enough that
Keep
I'm
going
talking with
until keep
some
yeah,
companies.
always keep taking the calls.
Exactly. So I wrote a blog post about what I'm looking for and everything. And usually the first question that hiring manager asks me is basically like, hey, so what are you looking for? And I do not care about, bear with me when I'm saying that. I do not care about the type of product, meaning that I've done DevRel for machine learning, for security product, for front end product, for back end, for different services, for Kubernetes, cloud native, Centrex. What I care about is I need to be excited about the product or know
Yeah.
that I'm going to be excited about. And usually I
Yeah, like
like
you could there's
something
something
neutral.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
You're just
yeah,
like, "I get this. I get what you're doing here. I wanna learn more." Like, I'm curious, and I'm trying not to spend too much time because it's just an interview, right?
yeah,
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 so you
yeah.
wanna
And
have that,
as
like, spark.
exactly, exactly. So I would not be able to do my job if I was not excited about the product, uh, because like my job is, yes, it's a little bit of marketing, it's a little bit of sales, if we want to be honest, but it's like my goal are not tied to a dollar number, and I
Mhm.
never want to have those kind of goals because I'm not a salesperson. My job is to show you the positive side and what my product can do to help you being successful. And if it's not the
Exactly.
right choice, if my product is not the right choice for you, please go elsewhere. I'm not never going to
Yeah.
force you to use my product. And after that, if you feel like it makes sense, my job is to help you to be successful with that product, but on a human level. So developer
Yeah.
relation is usually like a medium to long term type of impact job because we work with the human people. So I'm never going to bullshit you. And trust me or don't trust me when I say that, but that's my motto. I'm never going to bullshit you. I'm always going to be honest about our shortcomings. Thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go on the rooftop and say like that part of our product sucks. But if we have a discussion,
No.
if we have a
But, like,
discussion,
if
I'm
you
going to
come
be honest
ask me,
about it.
like, "Can it do XYZ thing?" Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat if it's like, "Oh, it can, but it's hard." Like, especially in a platform like I support, it is a low code platform. It's got some boundaries. It's you come into a managed platform because there's a benefit to having us manage a lot of things for you, but there can be rough edges to that process too. And you're making a trade-off like with any tool, and it's like yeah, so I have to have the confidence that like I can say when I'm like, okay, you could do that, but you're gonna suffer a little, like it'll
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, and I think like I know some like leadership team people won't like that kind of vocabulary or discussion you have with people, but I think it's like it may not be the best way to have short-term customers, but it will be the best way to have customers that will stick with you, that will believe you, that will know that you have an honest discussion with them. And
Yeah,
I know
definitely.
it's always a battle about having paid customers and growing the business, but I think it's the best way to grow the business is really trying to be honest and like, do I have something that will help you being successful, that will fix whatever issues you have, that will fulfill a need that you have.
Mhm.
And this is how you get people that will use your product, that will pay month after month or year after year,
Yeah. Well, I
because they
wanna know when I come to you, like, I'm trying to do my job, so it's like, it's really personal for me if I'm using your product, so it's like, I wanna know when I come into your community, when I come to your documentation, am I getting everything all the information I need to make the best decision at that point? And, yeah, if I feel like a company is responsive, available, and honest with me, even if it's not the right choice right now, like, that sentiment sticks with me. I'm still
yeah.
gonna talk positively about you even if I didn't use your tool, and that's still good for you. Like
Exactly, exactly. And the thing is that I'm not doing it for that, but you never know how just connecting with someone would benefit you at some point. I know people that, like, at some point they had no use for my product, but I was friendly with them. I helped them with other stuff that was not even related. And like a couple of months after, they changed job, and voila, now they were like the perfect customer for my product, and they really needed to use
Yeah.
us. And they remember, like, I talked to that Fred Ball guy. Like, it was a nice, friendly dude.
Where is
And like,
he?
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, Fred, are you still the company? Like, I think that product now makes sense for me. And that happens to me so often. And sometimes I know it's not beneficial for my actual employer, but sometimes it's like, oh, when I was changing job, they were like, oh, you know what, your new product. I had
Yeah.
fans that basically follow me from one company to the other. They were like, oh,
How
that
funny.
product now makes
The
sense for
Fred
me.
fan club, like.
Exactly. That product makes sense for me now. Richard would say,
Well,
he's
and it
like,
is
and I,
you get to know like humans too. Like we are all people that we like people. Like we wouldn't be in this if we also didn't
yeah,
like
exactly.
people. So you also just get to know like these different builders and as humans too, and you just like talking to them about stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. That's part of the reason when I'm doing that show, I love to talk. That's it. That's the end of the sentence. I love to talk. So,
We're
so
yappers.
yeah. I have one last question for you, but just before Richard was saying, I just want to agree. I just want to vent about that. Interviews take so much time and energy. God, yes. And the thing, though, is that you cannot talk just to one company because there is no like it doesn't mean you're going to get a job if you talk to one company. So you need to talk to multiple companies to maybe have one or two offers if you're lucky at the end. So it's a lot of work, and it's never like it's like I praise the company that do like 3 interviews. I mean, in my mind, if you don't know if you want to hire someone after 3 interviews, you're probably doing something wrong. But most company have like five,
It's
six,
like
10
6.
interviews. Yeah,
Yes, so
it's
many.
I've once I've done 12 or 13 interviews for a job. Thank God I got the job,
Oh
but
my god.
that
I
was
would be like,
just
you have to pay me for this time.
crazy. And that
Like I
brings me
have
to
that
the second
leverage.
part because the interviews are one thing. And I'm lucky enough that, and I'm not saying that like, oh, I'm so good, whatever, but like
You
interviewing
put in the
does not
time,
stress,
man.
it does not stress me out anymore. I've
Okay.
lost my job so often. I had to find new jobs. I've done interviews so much in the last 20 years that it does not stress me out to do interviews. So I'm lucky in that way. It doesn't have to the burden of already preparing for interviews and like going in that time, but
Mm.
it's super time consuming. And the thing with developer relation is that you need to check the website, check the community, check the YouTube, check the docs, check the tutorials. You need to have an opinion about all those things. What you think makes sense, what could be improved, what you would be differently. Sometimes even like coming to the interview and like kind of already knowing what you would focus on your first 2-3 months of the job. And you need to test the
Yeah.
product. Sometimes
Mhm.
they're going to ask you to give a talk about the product, demo the product, which I think is one way. I'm not going to say too much negative thing because I'm looking for a job right now, but I mean, I gave like
You can't complain about
180.
the process till after.
I gave about 180 talks in the last couple of years. There is a lot of recording. You can see how I speak, and I'm going to be able to share the passion about your project. And I was like, just
Yeah.
it's a lot of work, like preparing a talk or a code demo or
Yeah.
whatever. And I feel like it's something really specific for a job. I mean, I'm pretty sure a plumber doesn't have to do the plumbing in a whole house before getting a job. Like you believe them with their experience. Like you can talk to previous
Yeah.
like employer, or I pretty sure they don't ask a doctor to do a open heart surgery before getting a job. Like, I mean,
All right.
no,
Yeah. Cut open my hand.
exactly.
Let's see
Like,
how it
please cut
goes.
that people and see how it goes. And oh, you better learn about like the room in our hospitals and where's the equipment before you even maybe start to
Yeah.
talk about the job. And this is what we have to do in developer relation. And this is the
In
part
depth,
that
reg devs
makes
too. Like you need to
yeah.
like build. A friend of mine's in advanced stage interviews with one of these bigger companies, and he's in these like all day interviews, and he's got to answer so many technical questions and do the whiteboarding and do this and that. I'm like, man, I was like, so you're done, right? And he's like, no, I have a whole nother day.
Yeah, no, that's so much, and the process is like we said, like it's a lot of interviews, and the process is usually not super quick, meaning that like
Mhm.
sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 weeks, 2, 3 months because they're interviewing a lot of other people. I know it's the reality, and it's just because it's the first time I can vent a little bit about that since,
Yeah.
and Richard, you just brought it up, so I was like, okay, I need to vent a little
I'm
bit.
curious too, like as a person that likes to think about data, I don't feel like if you really look at all this time and the cost of all this time, does it really actually benefit your company? Are you really getting that much better employees by doing these processes? They're very rigid. Like you said, there's no room to say, oh, Fred's got a million talks. Let's skip the talk stage with him and just have him send his top 3 and we'll decide if we like them. Like there's no, like, instead of like, so there's rigidity. If it has a talk in the
Yeah.
process, you're going to do it no matter who you are. And I'm like, or if it has 12 interviews, you're going to have 12 interviews. And I'm sure there's some companies that, probably more startups, that have more flexibility, but once a company gets any kind of sizable, like, they are so in their process. And I'm like, but does it really benefit you? Are you really getting the best of the best this way? My hypothesis is no, but I don't know. I don't have the data.
I have the same hypothesis. I'm not a recruiter. I'm not HR, so I cannot tell for sure. But I've been on the other side, and I think people like, I had job where after 2 interviews they were like, "You're in," and it was just discussion, and they watched stuff online, and they were like, "You know what?
That's
You get a
cool.
job." And some
I
other
hope to
times
get
it
to
was
that
like,
level someday. I'm not gonna lie.
exactly, but some other it was like 7, 10 interviews, and I'm sure that at the end, the result was the same. They both have conviction that I was the right person to do the job. And let's be honest, even if your interview process is top notch, there is no way you know if the person is the right fit until the person start to do the job, until the
No.
person start to connect with the team, until you see like there's a culture fit, there is like the people is bringing the right experience. Because yeah, it's interview. It's a little bit bullshit too. I mean, like there are people that are just good at interviewing, and it doesn't mean that they're good at like doing the job. And maybe the other way
Yeah.
around. There are people that are
Yep.
terrible at
It's a
doing the
different
interview
skill.
process, and they're amazing, really good at what they're doing, but they're just stressed out when they do the interview, or they don't know how to answer quickly to those things, or they just like that kind of pressure, because that's a different pressure than other stuff. Like it's that kind of pressure is too much.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
And
let's.
even like,
It's.
yeah, it's, we could go on forever about this.
I know. I was
Like,
going to say
the
like
whole
it's
industry has opinions here about this.
exactly, exactly. No, totally. Joseph. Joseph will say like, "Hi, Amanda
Hi.
and
Oh my
Fred."
goodness. Nice to see you.
Hi, Joseph. I love the beard. And I'm saying
Yes.
that with a little bit of nostalgia. I had to use like a long beard like that. And
I could
I
see
went
that.
crazy one morning. I cut it out for I don't know which reason. And now I'm crying a little bit every time I see someone with a beautiful long beard. Because, with Joseph, the process of growing is a pain in the ass. It takes forever to have like to reach the point where you love your beard. And at that point,
Where it
I was
actually
so
looks nice.
tired that I'm like, I know what, cut it out. Anyway, no, it
Oh
could be.
man.
Richard was like, could be its own episode about like recruiting and hiring and all
I
that
think
process.
that's what Taylor Besson does all the time. His recruit, he's a big into the recruitment content creation. I know he has thoughts.
Yeah, no, it's everybody. That's about the
Everybody.
hiring process. So, I know I told you before we start the show that usually I try to cut the discussion part to about 30 minutes. We're
I know
42
I didn't
minutes.
want to tell you, but once I get taught, we don't stop. No.
But it's fine too. It's, as I said, it's my show. I do whatever I want with that show. So I still have one last question before we move to the demo, because
Where I show you
that's a
this
question that I
amazing thing that
ask.
I built for you. No.
Yeah, that's a question I ask every guest, because exactly from one of the researchers comment about like what is exactly devrel. It changed from one company to the other. So, and I guess you answered it actually. My question was like, what is a developer advocate at Wix Studio? But well, now that I'm saying it out loud, you answered the question
I
previously
did a
when we were
little bit. Yeah, I
discussing.
can give a quick rundown though to wrap that up. So right now, and again, and this is another big thing about DevRel, I think that's important to always know is the job that you're hired for on day one might not be the job that you're doing,
Mhm.
6 months in, like, because priorities can shift. And so you won't see me at conferences right now. That's not a priority for us, but I used to. But what you will see if you are building with us is I'm incredibly active in our Discord community with working with the developers on debugging or events, product feedback loops, working on educational content. Whenever we have some kind of a launch or anything like that, working with the product teams closely on that communication and what educational resources we need. So I work a lot with and in a collaborative way with community, product, and kind of education and all of that right now, more so than anything else. So events that are meant for the community versus meant for the like community at large. So that's most of what takes up my time. But like we also both mentioned earlier, somebody could ask me to do something random tomorrow that I've never done before, and I will be like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. I like that. It's why right now I'm talking with a couple of company for a potential job, and for most of them, I have no experience with their product or even maybe the technology behind their product, and I'm like, it makes sense if you don't want to hire me, but I tell you, you're going to get probably the best out of me because I'm going to get really excited about learning something new. I love
Mhm.
doing that. This is what I love when I was a full-time developer. We always have to learn about new stuff, and it's still what I have to do. And every jobs I had previously as a developer advocate, it was always about like a part of the industry that I did not know about. But that also me that gave me the disadvantage that like my ramping time is a little bit longer than someone who already know the technology, but that gave me the advantage that I'm a real customer zero. I'm a real first
Yeah, I was about
customer.
to say, you never get that chance again. You only get one
Exactly.
chance, and, like, yeah, for you to be in the company as that, like, person that's gonna be able to learn it, but, like, it's yeah, just give all that feedback back at the same time, like, you're making an impact still on that, like, day 1
Yep.
because you're gonna see places in the documentation that can improve and
Exactly.
everything, and all of that is so beneficial. So, yeah, you might not be able to do the advanced webinar for the first couple of months, who knows, or however long it takes you to learn the thing really deeply, but you'll be able to make that product much better for people learning it from day 1, really.
Yeah, and usually I'm a quick learner, so I remember when I started at Fitbit, on my second day, we were having our first meetup in San Francisco, and they were like, "Do you want to give a talk?" And I'm like, "Okay, I have a day to learn the Fitbit SDK. I'm going to give a talk. That's going to be intro talk, but I'm going to give a talk." And it was a successful talk. So, but as you said, I went through the documentation like any other users. I went through what we were missing, and I was able to say like, "Hey, like I had to go through what everything like a new users go through. So I know
Mhm,
what's good. I know what I would improve, and I just love to do that. And I feel like in our job, um, like everything that is considered soft skills for any other
mhm.
type of job is kind of like hard skills for us, you know. So
Reading, comprehension.
exactly. So,
Yeah,
the social skills and how to communicate and all those things that are really critical to your job. So I feel like it's easier to have someone who has developer relation experience that learned the tech than having someone who has like
I
know
agree
the tech and
completely.
need to learn how to be a developer advocate.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
about the times in the community where you see where somebody's like, when people are when there's a bug or something's wrong, especially like I said, a product like this where it's people's personal livelihoods, they are probably losing money like while the thing is not working, right? And they are not happy. And
Yeah.
so you have to also know like how to get to the bottom of somebody that's upset. Like what's the real problem here? Because that you can have something actionable to do with how to diffuse a situation when what they just want to do is vent at you and you're the only face of the company they have access to. And like you don't learn that in your onboarding. You get onboarded to the product. So the first time somebody yells at you like you're the whole company,
Yep.
you're just like, what? So you have to kind of you need a different set of skills to understand how to deal with conflict, how to get to the actual value in a person's feedback, and how to build those relationships in the community so there is that trust, that when you say something, people believe what you're saying or whatever it is.
Yep.
But yeah, none of that stuff, like you got to come in with that. Nobody teaches you how to do that once you get there.
Exactly. And you need to know how to do that because it's part of the job and that's going to happen. And people who there's a lot of people that get pissed off. Uh, so
Hopefully
that's
not too many, but yeah, it's not avoidable. Like it's going to happen.
exactly. Exactly.
Oh
So
my
now
gosh, I
that's
really am gonna show you something.
so now that's right. Now that's the time. Let's move to the demo. I want to learn more about Wix Studio, and you said you're going to show us, if I'm not wrong, about how to use the SDK and the API.
Yeah, yeah, I did a little bit, just touch a couple of different things, especially since you told me that you do work with Wix sometimes. I'm not sure. Hold on, I can't talk and figure out how to share my screen at the same time.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Impossible.
During that time, I'll just gonna remind folks if you're watching and you're looking to learn more about developer relation and you're looking for developer advocate, this guy's looking for a job. And if you are in developer relation, you're a developer advocate, you would love to be a guest on the show. You've seen it today. It's pretty laid back. It's just two friends having a discussion about devrel and their career. Happy for you to join as a guest. The only thing is that I'm fully booked for 2025, but I'm taking wait lists because I'm optimistic 2026 is coming at some point. So I'm gonna need guests if I want to
I believe in that.
continue. Yeah, I too. So if I want to continue that show, that's gonna be it. And yeah, I'm really excited about the demo today because, as you said, I use Wix. I am a part of a Buddhist center, and Wix was the platform that we're using before I started to teach meditation there. So I was kind of like imposed to use Wix, and I discovered Wix. We have a lot also of non-technical people, and what I told you is that I want to learn more about like what I can do with the platform as a technical person, because like for non-technical people there is some limitation that makes sense, but as a
Oh yeah.
developer, like I'm like, no, I can do more. I know I can
You
do
wanna
more.
you
Like
wanna get under the hood, right?
exactly. So how
Don't give
can I
us
do more?
boundaries. Show us your back doors.
Exactly.
So my guess is that you're probably given the population that you just mentioned, you're probably on what we call our classic editor, and that is more geared towards a DIY user, meaning like it does have less stuff. So like when they like this is Wix Studio, this is a more design centric platform, and like it has a lot more tools for designers and things like that. Like you can use advanced CSS grids and things like that in here.
Oh yeah,
This
no, I
this kind of stuff would overwhelm likely your DIY user. So Wix Classic, which is likely what your site is on, is that's kind of like our original editor. It's the original kind of product that was geared towards like when Wix first started, like was like we want anybody to be able to build a website. That was their whole thing. And so that platform, they keep certain parts of it more simple. However, from a developer perspective, when you get into the developer part of the platform, it's all the same stuff for you. Like the APIs are the APIs, whether you're working on this platform, which you see right now, or the classic one, which maybe has less kind of the visual canvas settings and less stuff going
mhm.
on. The only reason you wouldn't have access to something is if it's like a product that doesn't exist on the classic editor. I'm trying to think of something right now. I'm sure there is one. But that would be the only reason. Like if it's like, if there's a button here, all the APIs the button has here, it has there. There's no difference in the dev platform. So I think
Okay.
that's important. It's important to me. I know like sometimes like with more like kind of premium or more advanced platforms and things like that, it's like you find out as a developer, oh, I only get XYZ tool if I'm on this
Yeah,
version of this, and it's just so annoying
it is.
to me. I'm like, just give me, I need to be able to use stuff wherever I want to use it. So I do really appreciate that. So what I did here, and I'll just kind of like tell you kind of where I am. I made something very silly, since we're always having these conversations about will AI take my job. So this is
Mhm.
like a POC. There's actually places you could take something like this. And so we have a simple front end. We have just an input and a button. Again, drag and drop, but then you can use all of your things. It's not responsive right now because I am a terrible designer, but you can make it fully responsive.
I heard you. I
Um,
heard you.
so in the front end, so this might look familiar to you if you have written any code. All the front end code in Wix is all wrapped in like a page on ready function. When the developer platform was first like opened up, I think it was 2017. jQuery was really hot, so that's why it kind of looks like jQuery because it wanted to be understandable to developers out there building. Like, and
Yeah.
so, and that's where that kind of like you'll see a lot of these dollars, and that's usually the first question I get is it jQuery? It is not jQuery. But it does look a little bit like that if you've done that before. Um, what I have written here in the back, and I'll show you what this connects to. So this is importing from our SDK. This is like the Wix data package. And this is a web methods package that's for providing permissions around your backend functions. So you can write client-side code and you can write server-side code. So right now you're in your backend server-side code here. So these are those npm packages. They're sitting right here. You've got your backend. Oh, I thought I deleted. Oh no, I was gonna delete this and code it for you live. That's what happens though. So this is the code I was testing earlier, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll get it out of here and just show him how to make this API. I
No
didn't do
worries.
that. So no, it's
It's
all
fine.
done. We'll
I'm
talk
part.
about it. We spend so much time yapping. I'm going to show you all about where stuff is, and you can ask
And
me
you know
questions.
what? I'm part of the people who never understood the live coding thing. Like when I watch a talk, it's fine if you do it a little bit, but most people, like, you do a mistake and you spend more time trying to debug than showing
So
what
much
you want to
time.
show. So I'm
I
always
think
the
there's
kind
a
of person
place
who,
for it, but it kind of
yeah,
depends, right?
exactly, exactly. So no
I've
stress about
only
that.
done. I did what I would call like true live coding at a conference once, and it was so stressful because like there were Wi-Fi. This is a cloud platform. Like there were Wi-Fi issues.
Yeah,
I was just like never good. And I did record everything as a backup if anything went like really, really bad. But yeah, I've gotten to a point with anything I do like live, unless like I'm gonna sit on stream and just code and come hang
yeah,
out with
yeah.
me. Like if it was like something like that, like that's whatever. But if I have a fixed time, you best believe that you never have as much time as you think you do to write code
Exactly,
live. It
exactly,
never happens. And it feels different. It's like the interview thing. Like I'm a much worse dev right now than I've ever been, I'm sure now. Because I would probably do something silly and then yeah, we'd sit there and look at it and go, what's wrong with this?
exactly.
But so all this is doing. So what I did, I let's go to my collections first. I can show you where this came from. I went to just to chat GPT and I said, give me a bunch of jobs, get the risk score for them to be taken by AI, and then give me a reason why you're giving them that score. So I just had ChatGPT give me a give me a CSV for this, and I imported it. So you can import data. What you could do that would be really cool, of course, is to actually connect to some kind of a model to put
Hmm.
like these inputs then too. But this is POC, so we didn't go that far with it. So we just have the CMS here with all these values that we're going to query and return to this front end. And so this is your backend code. We're just querying that jobs. I forgot to rename that ID, so it's just called import, but we're querying it. This is also our CMS is based on Mongo. It's built on top of that. It's like an abstraction. So if you
Okay.
like have an idea, like if you used it before and you're thinking about how to build your queries, like you can kind of think in that. I know when I was first learning how we do like our aggregates and things like that, like that helped me think about the way to like look for data and aggregate data and things like that. So this is just a regular query. We're looking for that title, and if it returns anything, we're gonna return a response telling you what your chances of being replaced by AI. So the other thing, and this is something I always like to show people if I have like a quick demo to do, because I think it's one of those things you just don't think, if you've never coded on Wix before, you just don't think it would be able to do.
I did
And
not
you
even know
can,
you had some kind of IDE in it, so I'm just excited
oh,
about
okay. So
seeing
this is
code.
all new. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Well, in that case, yeah. So your page code is your client side code, JavaScript. Backend is JavaScript. This is a node environment. I think we support, I want to say that we support, I think up to ES 2020 standard right now for JavaScript. So if you use newer than that, I believe it will work, but it will give you like errors in here in the code editor, I believe, but we'd have to check that out. So yeah, you can add regular JavaScript files. Web modules are what we use that would be any files with functionality that you're going to export to the front end. Yeah, you can organize your files and folders. We have scheduled jobs in here,
Oh,
exposing
nice.
APIs, which is what I'm going to show you in a second, data hooks, and then there's backend events here. Another thing that might be interesting to you, actually, this might take a hot second to load, but some people want to be able to code in something that's a little more familiar. So this IDE and is built on top of VS Code, like the cloud version of VS Code.
Oh yeah,
So
I
you can
recognize that.
actually, yeah, you can actually, all of my code is in here, and I can just work on it here, and it'll reload that environment
Oh,
there as
amazing.
I'm working, which is really cool. The third thing that's more involved to set up, so I won't do it now, is you can actually, if you're working on a
Demo
team,
for Fred. Sorry, I
yeah,
just
right.
said
I
demo
did.
for
I called
Fred.
it. That's the name of this site. You can also connect it to GitHub and make a repo and have your versions, have your team work on it,
Now we're
and
talking.
yeah, you can. That just came out. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I was so excited to see it because you really couldn't. Um, you could collaborate with a designer with like with the Wix IDE, you could be coding and a designer could be in here. I'm pointing at my screen like you can see it. I do this on streams all the time. I start pointing at something. Um, somebody could be in the visual canvas, you could be in the code. So you can collaborate live, which is super cool. But developers like can't both be in this environment because you couldn't have one person in the code
Yeah,
editor. But now you can have branches and have a whole, workflow like you would have by integrating with GitHub and having a repo connected to the site if you want to. And a lot of our developers with bigger projects will work that way, and it's really
yeah,
nice.
I like that.
Yeah. So this
Good
was
job.
this is the API because this really accurate, super scientific data that you have about will AI replace your job is going to be wanted to be ingested as a service in other places. So so you can also take your website and say, like, I have something that would be really cool to expose as an API because I either want people to be able to use my service that I'm exposing, or I want to use it somewhere else. I might want to put it, I don't know, on a mobile app or something. I want it to come to
Mhm.
my watch. I don't know. Wherever you want to send this data. It's just an API that you can choose to expose however you want. So I thought that was really cool too. It's something that I feel like people are always surprised that you can expose your site as an API. We actually also, and if you need more than this, if you need a lot more than just an API, we have a headless platform now as well. So you could not even have like this front end. If you were like, I don't want to deal with the visual canvas, and I don't work with a designer, but I want to write in Next.js. Most of our examples are in Next.js. So, but you could just use it headless and say, I want to use Wix as a backend. Essentially, I want to use your CMS. I want to use your e-commerce. I want to use whatever you have, but I
Mhm.
want to build the way that I like to build, and I don't want to learn your entire system, but I want to have the benefit of those business solutions. So there's just really a lot of different ways developers can interact with our system at this point, and it's really, really cool. Um, so I'll run this and I'll show you what's going to happen. So this is our preview mode. This is like a testing mode before you go live. Publish is our deploy. It's gonna assess everything. If there's code errors, I can introduce one if we want to see it. There's a build pipeline that's part of it. So like you don't even have to
Okay.
write your own CI/CD anymore. Like it'll assess your code, and if there's something wrong with your code, it's going to tell you and give you a little log of it, which I think is super nice.
Nice.
Let's see. Let's see what's going to happen to the software engineers. Um, Preview mode does run a little bit slow. Watch it not work because that's also how live things go. Oh no, it did. It's just really slow right now. So yeah, this is it. And then we also have your API, which we could do here as
Not
well.
30% is not that bad.
Yeah, I think we're going to be okay according to this. So again, yeah, what would be a really cool way to like take this further is so if I put in what happens to cats, will AI take cats' jobs? We don't have enough data on your job prospects, Cat. So we don't think AI is taking the cat's jobs. But what would be a really cool way to take this further is so for any data that you don't have in your CMS, now you're hitting maybe some model that is going to return that value and then
Mhm.
save it. So now you can have that decision of, do I hit a model to find out about what this person's looking for, or can I serve it from the data that I'm storing? and, you know, hopefully not have to pay for expensive tokens or credits to whatever model I'm using to
Yeah.
create this data. So it's actually kind of a project you could take even further. It's a silly one, but you could take it even further. I'm trying to think what else would be cool for you to know though. So I'm excited like that you didn't even know any of this. So you haven't run into a
No, I'm
wall
so happy to see
updating
some
your
code.
site. Um, but yeah, you can also build, we have like the ability to build apps. You know how like for WordPress you can build plugins, and Shopify you can build like apps for their system. You can do that here too. And you do that either through, we have a visual platform for that called Blocks, but you could also do it as say like a React developer and use our CLI to then create an app that
You
plugs
have a CLI.
in.
You're still saying a lot of nice things today.
So all those good dev words.
I mean, the
Yeah,
only thing, and to be honest, I didn't took the time to really try to learn more Wix, because what I needed to do was really basic. It's just to add a new events to like our organization and like move a
yeah,
button, and it was like basically like a WYSIWYG kind of like I dragged up here, and I have a small pop
yeah.
up that I helped me to align stuff, but like I've never seen like code, and maybe
Well,
it's the
yeah,
access I have. And anyway, it's not something that was needed before, because in the organization I'm the first one who has like the technical skills to like, who is a developer who could do that. But I'm just happy that now like I know there's a
that's cool.
possibility to do that.
There's a lot. It's when I when I first touched Wix, it was actually really funny. I was still working at the government contracting place I talked about earlier, and one of our clients built a Wix site for something, some event they were having. It was like a local government thing, but they needed to hook up some stats API to it that they had, and they didn't know how to do it, and so they came to us, and I was talking to them, and you know, in typical like dealing with clients fashion, I'm just like, I'll look into that. But in the back of my mind, I was like, oh my God, why did they do this? You can't code on a Wix site. I was like, I'm gonna have to rebuild this for them. And but I was like, oh, you know, I'll look into that. So they gave me access to the site. And it was the first year they opened up. At the time, it was called Wix Code, and it was just a beta, like a little beta flag on their site that
Mm.
said like dev mode or something. And I was like, "What's this?" Because you know, devs, we don't like go to the doc first. We're just clicking around, and I'm like, "What is all this?"
Yeah.
And so I immediately started clicking around, and I was like, oh my god, it's just JavaScript. Oh my god, I have access to fetch. Okay, well, fine, I can do this. Like, so it was just really cool, and that was like they had only opened up a handful of things just to see if there was interest, really. Like someone in the company just kind of had this vision, like I think people would want to do this. And then
Mhm.
now the focus on the developer side of the platform is opening up the platform. So anywhere that you like, as someone working with a company that has a Wix site and you get brought on as a developer, that anywhere that you run into a wall that they're having, that there is some way for you to keep going, that but still kind of maintains that integrity for that DIY user or that person that only wants to do the visual, the design side of it, that
Yeah,
it doesn't make it more harder for them to not touch the dev part.
which
So
is
for
good.
a dev, you can go as deep as you want, and everywhere there's a wall, they're trying to figure out a way to open that up and allow you more ways to inject or take out or use whatever you want in the platform. It's really cool.
No, that's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that because Wix is really useful for, as I said, like in the fashion that we're using it. I'm the only technical person, so like the UI, not the UI, but like do it yourself, the DUI.
DUI development is
Exactly,
very
DIY
different.
development.
That's like
You know what? A couple of years ago, it was popular
a game
though. That
show.
was like, yeah, a couple of years ago, it was popular. People were coding drunk. That was stupid, but that was a thing.
I would never be able to. My God, I would fall asleep. But
Yeah, no, me too, me too. I've code tipsies once in a while when I was drinking. But yeah, like drunk. Anyway, it's not what I meant. But like people that don't have the technical skills, like it's a really perfect tool. They were able to create the websites that they needed. They were able to publish events and get registration for events and get
yeah,
paid through the courses and stuff like that.
I
So,
love
but it's
that.
good that there's also a door somewhere for people that is technical that needs to do some other stuff. Or sometimes you can do the exact same thing with the I don't know to call that, but with the non-technical part of thing, but it feels more complicated to you because as a developer, you
Mhm.
know, it could be like a line of code or two and you would be good. So having that possibility
Yep.
is really interesting too.
Yeah, because there's a lot of places like in this obviously, and this is in the back end, like I prefer to write out my Wix data queries. It's just what I like to do. I like to work with the data. I like to manipulate it, structure it the way I want it. I want to use it the way I want to use it. But for a non-technical user, you can connect data directly to elements.
Mhm.
Like they could set up the CMS, and there's a lot of elements that you can just connect to the data. If there's nothing particularly advanced you need to do with it, maybe you're just displaying it, there's no reason to query and display it. You don't have to. But if you're a developer and that's your preference to
Yeah.
manage that through code, you can. So yeah, there are a lot of ways where you can make a choice on what you want to do, and it's also cool because then it's like somebody like when you get this client, you're not afraid to also maybe suggest like a cool idea that you think of.
Yeah.
It's not like that painful where you're like, I don't want to say this because I don't even think it's possible, and then they're gonna want it, and it's gonna be a pain in my butt. But like, it's like so you can then play around and think of interesting features or things that you might like to see on the site because it might actually be fun to implement them because they can manage all the other parts of the site that they've already put together. So
Yeah.
it's a cool place to play. And it's also I always tell people this too, and this is definitely not why not doesn't make the company any money, but one thing that's really interesting about this tool to me, a lot of people in our community of developers that are, now really successful business owners learned to code through us. They started as the non-technical user,
Mm.
but because it's this is the kind of platform that it's free to build. Like this is our free URL, and like so when it's published, it's always good. Do I have it up right now? Let me do this real quick. Um, when it's up, it has like a little ad banner on it, but you have access to the whole dev platform to without ever paying us. So you can learn JavaScript and see it live, and it's really kind of approachable as a platform because we're handling so much for you. There's so much you don't have to think about. So you can really focus in on just creating business logic. And so it really empowers people. So it's a really great place to learn too. And then you might just find out that you can use the tool to make money too and
Yeah.
make live sites.
Yeah, because the playing an app on a website right now, it's like, you need to go on the cloud or create a cluster, and you need to install libraries and configure
Yeah.
the HTTP server and all those things. Now you just push a button and you're good to go.
Yeah.
So you can concentrate
Yeah,
on the
you don't have to
code.
know about any of that. No,
Mm.
we handle a lot of the basic things that are the pain points of modern development. Yeah, there's no environment setup and yeah, web pack things. It's like there's none of this stuff anymore. You don't have to figure out where to deploy. We're hosting and how to deploy and what that means. And we're handling a lot of basic security things. You can still write in secure code.
Yeah.
Like we can't stop you from posting an API key in your client side code. Uh, if I see it, I'll tell you, but but so like you can still ruin things for yourself here and there, but we do a lot of things for you. Like any form you put on, like we have some spam protections and things like that. Like there's just a lot of things so you can focus on learning. It's a really cool place to learn JavaScript. Honestly, even to learn design because we have a lot of like really good educational resources coming out of our different teams. They're really education and community focused here, which is another I think another really smart choice of theirs for their business and for the community. Like it's a really well loved product in the community because there's just so much there for you to help
Mhm.
you.
Sounds good. So I'm in
Yeah.
I assume you were done with the demo.
Oh yeah. My demo fell apart. I wrote no code, but I showed it for you.
No, but that's perfect. Now it's just because I removed the share screen. I assume we
No,
were
that's
because we're
perfect.
talking for a while, so
Yeah.
I assume you were done with the demo.
Yeah,
Unless
yeah.
there is anything else you want to share with
There's
us.
always something. Oh gosh, no. If you have specific questions, I'll show you. But like again, it's one of those things. It's just a funny thing to demo because I'm like, I literally could show you anything. You can build. I haven't run into anything I couldn't build on Wix yet. Now, there's certain things that I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't like the best place to build.
Mhm.
Because we have you can use web components and things like that, like in iframes for stuff that you really can't do on our site. But it's like if you're putting 20 web
Yeah, yeah,
components and iframes on a page, are you really building in the right place?
exactly.
So it's like there's so much you could do. So I tend to show a couple of things and then see where the curiosity takes us, because it's just anything you can build on the web, you can probably build with us.
That sounds good. That sounds good. And
Yeah.
for people who want to try it, I share a couple of links with you during the demo. There's
Yeah.
the wix.com/studio/developers, where I guess all the magic happened. I share also the Discord community. So there's a link if you want to join, if you want to ask a
Yeah.
question to Amanda. I'm sure she's
Yeah,
going to
I'm
be
in there all the
there.
time.
Yeah, and anyway, I share your Twitter and LinkedIn too, and
Awesome.
there's obviously a YouTube channel, Wix for developers. So there's probably great tutorials there and great stuff for
Yeah.
visual people that want to learn more about how to use Wix Studio as a developer.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this has been fun. And like I said, yeah, very naturally evangelical about it. I really do think it's just such a cool product. So, and obviously, you have full access to me if you need to evolve your site as well for your nonprofit.
That's awesome. I'll take your word for it. I like that. So I guess that brings us to the end of the show. So anything else you want to share about Wix Studio, about devrel, about the plant behind you, whatever you want to
My
share
plant, my
about?
cat palm, my cat. This was me. So what's going on behind? It's so funny. This is another part of how devrel evolves, and you should never get super attached to one way of doing things. So when they first started having me create educational content, because I'm at home, they made like they were like, well, just don't worry about doing your face. So we have very particular design standards that we like to stick to. Like there's a look to the content Wix puts out. So they were like, okay, let's just do voiceover screen recording. So I haven't been on camera in a very long time for Wix. But recently we decided to kind of switch that, and which I'm super happy about. I think people want to see people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my office wasn't set up for content creation because I wasn't doing it. So I've turned my desk around. I brought this plan in. I've got lights and things going on. I'm working it out here. So this is like the first iteration of my proper background to be able to put my face on video. I've got some lights and things going on. Yeah, I'm learning that side of the job because I really haven't had to do it. Whereas I feel like a lot of people out there just make this really beautiful content, and I haven't had to show my face in a while. I've been doing voiceovers.
Yeah, I heard you. I show my face all the time, but my background right now is just shit. I bought a house like in June, and I didn't paint the wall of the office. I have all my wires that look like nothing. Like I'm not a tech guy. That's not a good background for live stream. But I never took the time to like do something nice since I moved to the new house. Prior to that, at the condo, I had like a nicer background and it was more polished. Now I feel like I don't know, I do not care much, but the benefit is that there is like a shelf next to me and there is usually a cat there, so it doesn't look nice to
Oh,
have that shelf right away in back of me, but like most of the time there is a cat joining my live stream, so
a
people just
background
like
cat
it.
is that's a good background.
So that's a good prop for the live stream, but the rest of my background is kind of weird. So, you go through like the kitchen, and oh, there's a cat there too. I'm not able
I
to.
love
Okay,
that.
there's a cat
Yeah, I
there, but
think
there's
backgrounds don't bother me too. Like when they're really nice, like as a viewer, like I don't care so much about your background as long as it's not like really distracting, like something crazy is going on
yeah.
behind you and I can't possibly focus on you. But I also understand like a company that's been around for a while and the size of Wix that is very design focused. They don't want us putting out content that looks like garbage is weird. It doesn't feel like part of their brand. But so it's like I think it depends on where you're working, what you're doing, and kind of like what kind of tool it is. So it makes for us for sure. But I was like, oh man, I was like, I gotta change my whole situation here and figure out how distance and all that. So now I'm learning about lighting, and that's a whole can of worms too.
Yeah,
I
yeah. Yeah,
but it's exciting
that's the
because
life of
it's
developer
curious.
relation. Yeah,
Yeah, but you gotta love learn. Like again, it's that love to learn. Like I was going down a rabbit hole reading about all of that kind of tech the other day, and like it's fun. We like learning new things. We like people, and that's really the heart and soul of the job.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I agree. So Richard was saying this was a fun chat. Thanks for the great stream.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks to Amanda. I did nothing. She did the old show. This is what I love with that show. The guests are doing the show. I'm just
You
one of the
just
pretty
chilling.
face. Yeah, I'm just here to also have fun. So thanks again, Amanda. Thanks everybody who
Yeah,
watched us
thank you.
live. Thanks, Richard, for all the comments and questions. This is how I like to do live stream when there's external participation. So I was not able to show all the comments, but I tried to show as many comments as possible and have some questions.
Awesome.
Thanks, people watching the recording too. And again, if you are a developer advocate, you want to be on a show, please let me know. And if you are looking for a developer advocate, please let me know also. That's a good time for me. And on that note, folks, have a good rest of the day and see you in 2 weeks for the next DevRel show. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.